Is Hasbro treating JDF right? Next up on Just to Talk So, let's talk about it. And welcome to the Flicks, Picks, and the Nitpicks. And I am your humble host, No718. And we are going to get right into Just the Talk. So let's talk about it. And I've been really getting into this Power Rangers thing heavy lately. You're going to see a lot more Power Rangers stuff coming from this channel. And it's because I told you guys several times before, if I haven't already, I just got this relationship with Power Rangers in my childhood that, like, certain different things I could pick up from Ninja Turtles to, like, there's just so many different periods in my life where it was just like that was so much part of my childhood, and also kind of like helped shape me as an artist growing up at that time. That being said, I'm really excited about this, man. Another thing is, I told you guys, my favorite Power Ranger was the Black Ranger, Zach. One of the things that's so pivotal about that for me is black superheroes. The superheroes that happen to be black were never done right when I was a kid. It was always some generic, the big burly guy, the big guy, you know what I'm saying? So, and then they seldom got character development. There was always the muscle or the mechanic. And sometimes, depending on which characters they did as mechanics, they were actually pretty cool. I'll give you that. But they never got like the frontline story or the romance and all of that, you know what I mean? They always gave that more to the centered character that I always, for the most part, usually had the most interest in, because they gave them more character development, you know what I'm saying? That being said, when I seen Power Rangers, for him, Zach, to be the hip-hop kid too, and all of that, it was so new for me to finally see a superhero character that happened to be black, that didn't make me as a kid, I want to say, when I saw a black superhero, I was automatically not interested. It's just that sometimes I just always noticed that the black characters just never had interesting stories, and usually because the main character always got all of the lion's share, the best plot line stories, love interest, they always got the girl. So you always kind of want to, as a kid, live vicariously through the guy that had the big arc, the big story, who got the girl, all of that, you dig? And it never really was a black character, you know. It's very seldom you had that when I was growing up. So to have a character like Zach that was cool, was like Zach Morris. He might not have been the leader, your Leonardo, but he was the coolest Ranger, and he was actually dope. And there was so much stuff around the character, the fact that he didn't really need all these other motherfuckers weapons to shoot that cannon. My shit's a cannon already. I just need all that rubbish on. You just throw that rubbish on and makes it even more powerful. I get that. That's why even when I was a kid, when the Red Ranger used to be like the key, I'm like, I used to be a kid like, how you the key? Could have shook all y'all motherfucking shit off and shot that shit by himself. He didn't need y'all for the power cannon, to be honest with you. Why you holding that? But like I said, it was dope to have him, especially for him to be a black character and a hip-hop character, hip-hop kid. That was big for me growing up, you know what I'm saying? And because him being black really didn't matter. Like, he just was a dope character to me, and the fact that he was black, that was the only reason why it stood out to me, because it was very rare that I had a favorite character on something and they were black. They were my favorite character, bar none, and it was Zach. So, you know what I'm saying? Getting to see him come back after he left the series, for me as a kid, it was kind of one of the main reasons why it was easy for me not to watch Power Rangers no more. Especially because you also took like half of the main motherfuckers away. Jason mattered to me too. Trini mattered to me just as much as Billy and Kimberly and even Jason. But other than Jason and his character had the lion's share of the story, which even at times for me just got boring, because it was like they were kind of already doing that with him already when the others were there, that when he is there, it always becomes Tommy and the rest. And now it had to be because he literally had to carry the whole team. And even for me back then, as much as I liked JDF and Tommy's character, his character always I think stood out because it was juxtaposed from the rest, if that makes sense. Because if you looked at him as the actor, you know what I mean, not to knock him, to be honest, all of the characters, but then you gotta also remember it was a kind of style. They weren't like hired because they were great actors. It was also the physical aspects as well that they could sell, and because he was a very gifted fighter, that took him over the mark. Because if you really pay attention to his acting on the series, it wasn't like, you know what I'm saying, he got better over time. To be honest, he was a better character in terms of acting. I would say he was a better his best acting was actually the later episodes. I mean, when I say the later episodes, I'm talking about when he showed up in like Dino Thunder, because he'd already had done it for a while. You know what I'm saying? You could tell he was very new to the craft, and the fact that he had to now, he shined best juxtaposed against Jason, that when there was no Jason, it had to really lean on his shoulders. You could see that he wasn't the strongest of actors, and not to say that Jason was the strongest actor, but you really believed in him as the leader, especially because of his voice. Even though it sounded overdone, he sounded natural with it. You know what I'm saying? He felt like a leader when he got on screen. You know what I'm saying? Like, for JDF, it kind of felt like it fell into his lap. And I think that's what also made him interesting as a character, because he had to really fight hard to stand as a leader. And I think that was the most interesting thing about his character. And I wish they would have leaned more into that. You know what I'm saying? As opposed to everybody always making it about him going into evil Tommy or this, that. Like, I like that even the comic actually stresses that. You know what I'm saying? That it just really fell into his lap. He wasn't the natural born leader. This just kind of fell into his lap for him, and now he has to make it work. And that, as opposed to your Jason, which was like the natural leader, if you will. Oh man, I'm getting way ahead of the topic though, but I just like, there's just certain things about that I think that you could really work with outside of just playing with the same tropes of these characters. But that's neither here nor there. But I really like, as you can see, really love this universe because there's so much you could do with it. It could be your next X-Men, if you will, because there's so many teams now over the years. So, but the idea that, you know, that Hasbro decided to move forward with the character, I'm finding a lot of people mad after seeing the trailer, the official trailer, that they still using Tommy's character in the narrative when JDF did not want his character to be used. And I'll dig deeper in another episode where it really comes from, when I want to do the presentation. But I kind of wanted to do something a little bit more off the cuff, because I've been just kind of like doing something I normally don't do in the channel, but been in the comment section just having a conversation with Power Rangers now, because I'm trying to move, not to say that, and I'm going to get back to talking about, you know, release the restore the Snyderverse stuff and the conversation around that. But if you've been paying attention to my channel, I kind of got bored with where the fandom was going, even with that I'm kind of, it was just at the perfect time they re-released this. And a little do people know, because I normally talk about movies on this, but I play with certain series. The fact that they're bringing this back, and I never knew a way how I wanted to incorporate talking about how I felt about certain things with the comic book, because I really wanted to talk to a larger narrative about like story structure, stuff like that. But certain things that I want to really get back into talking about when it comes to films here. But I wanted a reason where it could find its way, why I would even discuss it on this channel, because that goes into comics and stuff like that. And I mean, that's not what this channel was made for. I love talking about comic book movies, and that's my way to segue into comics, but that's not what this is about. This is about films and stuff like that, and the films that I enjoy watching. And I love comic books, so and especially I come from comic books, so comic book movies is an easy transition for me. So from me talking about Power Rangers would come from series, unless I'm going to talk about the movies, which I definitely will. I did talk about the series when they try to come back. I couldn't keep up with it because my channel is really about the flicks. But I'm going to make something for Power Rangers because this is something that I just want to talk about. And I think it will be fun to talk about on the channel because I do talk about certain series, and I will be watching this special and reviewing it as well. It'd be great to put up a lot of context for what I love about the franchise and my interest in it right now as an adult and moving forward. And it's much more fun than, getting into the Snyderverse stuff nowadays, because as much as I enjoy it, it attaches itself to a lot of negativity. And this is what I don't want to see in Power Rangers. But I think it's also because of our generation that's coming up. Even though we're older folks, we're the new generation of older folks. So we have new generational thinking. And victimization as a conversational piece is a thing where we're competing to out-victim each other, even people that are victims. You know what I'm saying? And I don't want to make my commentary about that, because that's something else, and this is a fun channel and talking about artistry and things of that nature. But I would be disingenuous and not to talk about it, because a lot of people are bringing this into the topic, into the narrative, into the zone of conversation. You can hear it right behind what they're talking about, that they want to talk about conservatives and liberals. You can tell that they want to talk about these topics, and it would make sense, because when you get older, the geeks of before get older, but they're adults, so they've evolved into other things of interest that are politics and things of that nature, and they would want to wrap it up or make their fandom an avatar of their politics, or even the other way around, their politics an avatar of their fandom. But to say that Hasbro did JDF wrong, and I'm seeing it. And what it really kind of boils down to is that they feel that they shouldn't use his likeness. And my thing is JDF doesn't own the character. I'll even take it further. I understand why JDF would feel a kinship to the character, because he's grown with the character. Who could know the character even better? But he doesn't own the character. You know what I'm saying? And Hasbro bought the franchise to further the characters, to further the story, to figure out ways to monetize it. And via nostalgia, they're not going to just put Tommy's character out of a situation, out of the narrative, when they still could utilize him in some sort of way to make him a part of the 30th anniversary regardless, even if he is not in it. Because just because JDF walked away doesn't necessarily mean Tommy did. You know what I'm saying? I'll say that again. Just because JDF walked away doesn't necessarily mean that Tommy did. And that's what that's what Hasbro bought. And it's unfortunate that JDF walked away from it, whether he was right or not, whether I agree or not. The bottom line is that when you're willing to walk away, you're willing to walk away. But you got to also remember, you don't own these characters. You don't own these characters. How could you even invoke the idea that JDF was done wrong? JDF was there when the whole cast was done wrong. But when Austin, and I said this in a comment section of someone else before, when Austin, Walter, and Trini left, I remember reading somewhere that they all wanted, or everyone, to walk away, but it just was those three. No one looked at the other three as being wrong or doing the others wrong. They looked at everybody went to handle their business. Everybody can't pay everybody else's way. So don't nobody would know what everyone else's business was. So there's a real reason why everyone decided to stay, and it's their business. Just like it's Amy Jo Johnson's business to not have to disclose why she did not want to do the reunion episode. Not to say that she didn't show up at the very end. Maybe she couldn't travel because it conflicted with her schedule, or she felt that, and if I'm not mistaken, I heard somewhere that they said that they worked on that what they paid was so cheap that it didn't even cover the expense of her going there because they weren't going to pay for the trip. Some stupid shit like that. Now, if that's the case, it would make sense. So maybe she films whatever she could film in the States for it, like maybe Austin did. Because I'm sure that if the only reason was because he couldn't fly due to his pending case, and it wasn't the case itself, they could have filmed something at least that they could phone in, if you will, and bring into the series at the very end and film in the States, where they can get away with whatever they can to bring everyone all together. Maybe a scene where Zach and everyone are posted up together, and they were able to do that. And maybe even Kimberly shows up physically, or she Zoom calls in, but at least she's part of it. And I think they'll do something to that degree. But to say that they did JDF wrong, I don't know. Because JDF was there off and on and was given several different helmets, several different characters at powered up levels. He was allowed to use the character outside of Power Rangers, and he was their company guy, especially when they needed someone to speak out against the adult version that he eventually wanted to do, and said that it was wrong. Now he's tired of wearing his covering up his tattoos. He wants to show it. But no, JDF got tattoos. Tommy didn't. That was kind of the point. You're still playing a character. You know what I'm saying? Don't get me wrong. I'm not to say that you didn't put a lot of you into the character. The point is, it's still somebody else's character. That's just the point. And even though I could agree how he feels, at the end of the day, that doesn't mean that Hasbro's wrong, because I get how Hasbro feel. We bought the character not to bench him. Like, we just met you. like we bought Hasbro bought this like within the past 5 years. We don't know you like that. You have a bigger experience with Disney. Or Saban, I should say, actually. He only came back for a Disney episode and a couple of Disney, I guess like Forever Red episodes or whatever. And I think those were Disney ones. But either way you look at it, he came back. He came back for Dino Thunder, which was Disney's. So bottom line is, the company is always given JDF some sort of respect via how his character is treated and his legacy in the series, even down to the comics. Like, everything is Tommy centered, and I think that's why he feels like you use him. No, they use Tommy. Don't get me wrong, you are Tommy as well, but at the same time you are not, because your name is not Tommy Oliver. Your name is JDF. Angel Grove is a fictional place. Green Ranger is a fictional character. So no matter how much you pour into these characters, at the end of the day, these are created characters. And it is what it is. Like, so to say that JDF was done wrong doesn't make sense. And even if you're going to argue that they used similar, they created Draken, and from what I understand, and that's where it gets a blur to me. I thought Draken was created by Boom Studios. I don't remember Saban having anything to do with that. If I'm not mistaken, the creator Boom Studios, they had that idea. So that's kind of like the idea of a kid that loved the Power Rangers and how to bring back their favorite character. I like I said, I mean, that's how I remember it. Now, if the idea is that they took his characters or idea what he wanted to do, that he ended up turning into the Legend of the White Dragon. At the end of the day, the Legend of the White Dragon is still a take off of the White Ranger and the Green Ranger. So at the end of the day, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Hasbro could just say that they didn't want to use that, but at the same time, what was the Legend of the White Dragon really about? And if it's about someone loses their powers and gaining new ones, I'm sorry, Saban beat you to it first. That was the whole Green Ranger arc, way before the Legend of the White Dragon was even considered. So you were inspired directly from the Tommy character, which isn't a bad thing. Because from what I understand, the idea was really based around the Green Ranger, because they didn't want to do it. You turned it into this. And now you're mad that they used elements that you showed them. But at the same time, they probably, I mean, you kind of went back to the well that came from the character. They went back to that same well, and maybe they use elements. I don't know. It's hard to not, because you basically used elements from that, you know? I mean, again, this is not a knock or a dig to JDF. I don't knock it. Most people use their creations or ideas and concepts that they got from characters that they love growing up anyway. So this is not a dig at JDF, but I just don't think JDF was owed anything by Hasbro unless they legitimately ripped off his character and his story, that word for word. Because if it's in this vague area, I don't want to hear it, because at the end of the day, the Legend of the White Dragon, unless you could prove until I see the movie itself, is still a basic rip, even if nothing else, in design only, off of the Green Ranger and the White Ranger. Like, if you seen the costume and realize, oh, the guy from that played the Green Ranger and the White Ranger came up with this movie, you probably be like, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. This is not like when the Power Rangers, the other Rangers, wanted to do the Order. The Order was something, if I'm not mistaken, completely different. You know what I'm saying? So what they're doing with this, with Legend of the White Dragon, until I'm proven otherwise, we can at least express an aesthetic alone is a take off of the Green and the White Ranger, and he was still able to make that movie. I don't think Hasbro was ever going to try and sue him. So why do it? And again, I just don't see it. I just don't see it as that, unless someone could prove to me. I'll recant. I'll go back and say, hey, I got more information. But up to this point, I just don't see it as a shot at JDF or Enso. If I'm not mistaken, Hasbro has removed the toys and figures. I don't know why they just removing his figures. That's what I'm hearing. But if that was the case, that could be out of respect for the family. I don't know. But we don't know how the Green Ranger is being used. We just know that is being used into it. And if you feel a way about that, my thing is, why is no one feeling the way that Trini is dying? They're using her death as a on screen and tying it to character. I don't know if, I'm surprised no one made a bigger deal about that. And even one person that put it up on their as a thumbnail or as a headline kind of misled everyone, because he was kind of okay with it. I thought judging by the thumbnail, it looked like he was like, nah, I'm not feeling that. But nah, homie looked like he was okay with it. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing or not, I don't know. But I thought it was odd no one kind of took umbrage with that. But that being said, look, man, I just don't think he did anything wrong. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this down the line, but I'm going to dig a little deeper with it in my presentation, but I just kind of wanted to just to talk about it. So, let's talk. Then in the comments below, let me know how you guys feel about what I said, and let's chop it up. Maybe I'll do another just to talk, specifically addressing something that you guys say below. So as always, you know what to do. Like, share, subscribe. See you next time, and as always, time a better outro. Chill.